What's up, everybody? This is Alex with WMD, back at you again. This time we're going to be talking about the Muscle stereo compressor as well as the Overseer stereo filter. So we're going to be using these as a master, send, and return insert for the performance mixer. So we're going to be doing some master compression as well as some stereo filtering effects. So let's just dive into it. First things first, here's my patch. I'm just going to make the mix a little bit wild here. So we got a real loud kick drum. So now I'm just going to set up our master patch. So we're going to go out of the send here. And I like to go to the Overseer first. So we're going to go into the Overseer, and then we're going to go over to the Muscle. The reason I like to do that is because I like to compress the filtered out sound. I like the compressor to be the very last thing in my master chain. And then we're going to take the output of the Muscle and we're going to go back into the return here. And the reason why you want to go back into the return, there's a couple different reasons. One, this is how you're going to get into your headphone mix. So you're going to actually get these filtered sounds into your headphone mix, as well as you still have the control of this master volume knob. So it's really nice to be able to set this, at a certain level. I like to go like at 70% with the when I'm playing live. That way I have a little bit of leeway to boost or cut if I do something kind of crazy. But for right now, we're just going to turn this guy all the way up, because that's where my levels are set on my interface. All right, so right now we're just going to talk about the Muscle. So the Muscle is a stereo compressor, and we've got three different switch places here. We've got out, in, and SC. So SC is for sidechain. We'll do sidechain in another video. We're not going to do that for this one. We're just going to do master compression. And so I'm going to flip these switches to the left. We'll bring our mix back up so we can hear it. And right now, with the switch all the way down, that means we're bypassed, so we're not hearing any compression. So this is just the raw mix we're hearing. As you can hear, the kick drum's pretty loud. Those claps are coming through. I'm actually going to turn down the cymbal just a little bit. All right, and now we'll turn on the compressor. So now we're in. And as we turn up the compressor here, you can see this LED is switching from red to green. Red is our gain reduction, and green is actually adding gain to the input. So you can hear, if I turn release down a little bit and turn the gain up, or turn the comp knob up, you're going to hear this pumping action kind of start to happen. We've also got a gain knob, so this is output gain, so you can use this for makeup, or you can use it as like an attenuator on the end, which is what I'm doing right now. So you can hear right now we're really taking away that kick drum. It's kind of just flattening out the whole mix, right? And this is over exaggerating everything into like just oblivion, so we can really hear what the compressor does. So what I like to do is figure out something where it sounds, where you hear the effect and the envelope sounds pleasing to your ears. So if we turn the envelope all the way over here, if we turn the release all the way down, we're just going to hear a real quick duck. And then as we turn the release up, you can start to hear it really start to take the volume down of the rest of the mix. And then every once in a while, when that kick drum's not there, you hear everything just kind of bump up, like the cymbal sounds are going to bump up, right? So now we're hearing the kick drum go down, and then we're hearing that cymbal level come back up. So I'm just going to adjust the mix a little bit to make it a little bit more friendly, turn my gain down just a tiny bit on the kick drum. And now that we've got this sound, I kind of like the way that this envelope sounds, so now I'm just going to back the compression off a little bit. Now it's a real subtle effect. Let's turn it off and hear what it sounds like without it. So here's my mix without it. No compression at all. You can hear it kind of sounds a little bit flat. And as I bring the compressor back in, just hear it breathe a little bit more. This is still probably a little bit drastic. So another thing we can do is we can use this limit switch to limit the amount of input gain that we're adding. So right now you can really hear that kick drum. Every time the kick drum comes through, we're reducing the gain, and then that cymbal's coming through afterwards. So one thing we can do is we can flip this switch here, and this limits the amount of gain we can add to the input. So it just makes it a little bit more flat sounding. We're still getting that gain reduction from the kick drum, but then we're not turning up those lower levels so much when the kick drum's not present. Right? So that just sounds a little bit more natural. Here's the limit switch to the left again. And then here's in the middle. And then when we flip the limit switch all the way to the right, this limits the gain even more. So I'll turn it up over here a little bit. And then this threshold switch in the middle, this is meant for using external gear. So we have it all the way to the left. This means that it's trying to accept, or that it's wanting to accept Eurorack levels. But if we turn it down, put it in the switch a little bit, this is turning the threshold down a little bit, which is going to give us more gain reduction. So if we turn it all the way to the right, we're going to get a ton of gain reduction, way too much for this signal. In the middle, when we're using this limit switch, it's actually not too bad. You can see we're still getting a lot of gain reduction on the kick, but now we have no green LED coming through, so we're not getting so much pumping. So again, without the compressor, and then with it. So this one, we're just kind of making it louder and just a little bit more leveled out. So I'm going to put the threshold switch back over to the left, and I'm going to put the limit switch in the middle because that's where I liked that. We're going to turn the gain down a little bit. We're just going to adjust this a little bit. Let's get it over compressing a little bit again. So one more thing we can do is if we want that kick drum transient to come through, we can turn up the attack, which slows down the envelope a little bit. And now we're going to let that kick drum through just the beginning of it. So you can hear the difference between this guy and then when I loosen up the attack a little bit. It actually makes it sound a little bit more natural. So one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten as far as compression goes is don't be afraid to smash it right away and then back it off so you can hear what it sounds like. And also, actually the best piece of advice that I've ever gotten with compression is use your ears. Don't be so focused on the visual appearance of the compressor. Whether you're using a DAW compressor where you can actually see the curve and you can see everything happening, or you're using a piece of hardware or this Eurorack module, remember to use your ears. It's really important with compression because it's really, you can get too much way too quick and you can just smash your mixes. So it's really good to reference the dry and the compressed signal and just really make sure that you're doing yourself service with the compression. So that's why I keep switching between the out and in. And that's why we put that on there so you can reference. It's just really important to make sure that you're not over compressing and just smashing things to bits unless that's exactly what you're going for. So let's turn this back on here and we'll back this off a little bit. That sounds pretty nice. Turn it up just a tiny bit on the gain side. Now we'll take it out. So this is what it sounds like before, and this is what it sounds like with. So it just adds a little bit of breath and a little bit of guts to the sound. So again, when doing compression, use your ears and don't be afraid to change it, if you hear something that's weird. All right, so we're going to leave the compressor in, and now we're going to start messing with the overseer. So the overseer is a stereo filter. And as you saw earlier, I just have it running right before the muscle on the stereo master track. So the overseer was inspired by DJ style filters, right? We've done a few videos on it. I'm sure you can find some stuff. I'm just going to go over it real quick. You have high pass on the right, low pass on the left. You have CV attenuation controls down here, resonance control, and then tilt. Tilt is pretty cool. It offsets the cutoff frequency into the different ears, so it can kind of give you a really cool stereo effect. It also has a bypass switch. This is a super useful thing, so you can do these big sweeps, and then you don't have to go back to zero. You can sweep up and then hit the button and turn the filter off. Hey, be quiet, doggies. So yeah, so let's just play the music again. All right, so get our stuff situated here. We can turn it on with everything set in the middle here. We're not going to hear any effect. We pull it up to the right. We got our high pass. So this is a really good thing to use to give your listeners a break, right? If you're hitting the subs all the time, you want to give people's ears a break. That's a lot of sound pressure that's just pounding your ears the whole time. So it's a really good idea to just drop the subs out every once in a while, and then you can bring it back in. And then on the same turn, you can take those high frequencies out. And high frequencies are the really harsh vibes. So this is a good thing to also give your listeners a break on. So it's good to do both of these throughout the set and just give yourself and your listeners a break. Another good thing to do while you're using the low pass is do any sort of announcements you want to do. So, you know, if you're trying to talk to the crowd, a lot of people will just turn the levels down on their DJ mixer, but filtering on the low pass side works really well too. You can just say like, "What up, everybody? How you guys doing tonight? My name's Nasty Nachos, and I'm here to play some crazy music and blow your fucking minds." And then you bring it back up, and everybody freaks out, right? I do that at my shows. I do that. That's exactly what I sound like when I do announcements for my shows. I guess the more realistic thing is like, "So there's a white car parked in the neighbor's parking lot across the street. They're not a big fan of our parties, so they will tow you. White Honda Accord license plate, blah, blah, blah. You might want to come, move your vehicle before you get towed. Okay, thanks, guys." Or something like, "It's last call, everybody. They turn the lights on, and tip your bartenders and close your tabs and get out of here pretty soon. I'm gonna start playing some Cyndi Lauper just to really make it apparent." Or something like, "The bride and groom are about to cut the cake, so if you just clear the dance floor, we're gonna wheel the cake in here pretty soon, and we're just gonna get things rolling." Or something like, I don't know. "We got brownies for sale in the back. Actually, they're not for sale. We don't have a license to sell food, but you can donate, and that would be very appreciated. Jan spent a lot of time on those brownies, so just go ahead and grab one and put some money in the bucket. Thanks, guys." Or I guess the most realistic one is like, "This girl won't stop talking to me right here. She keeps asking me to play trap music. Security, can we get this girl out of here? This guy's throwing up in the corner over here. Can we get somebody to remove him? All right, thanks, guys." Or something like, "Oh, I guess they just turned the music off on me. I guess the party's over. Oh shit, nobody's here." So on the high pass side, when you bring it up here, you can do announcements during this, but your voice is way more up in this frequency range. So it's a good idea to do your announcements with the low side. And then again, if you just want it to bang back, just hit the button. One cool thing about this is that the release or the action for the button is on the release. So you can set your filter up, hold the button, and then release on the beat. So one thing to note is that there will be a tiny bit of a click if you hit it in the middle of like a sub frequency and it just doesn't line up right? So if we kind of like do that, you might hear it right there. So it's good to pay attention to when you're using this. And that's literally just from cutting those frequencies out in the middle of a wave. So one thing you can do is try and do that right before the beat. So like, right? No click there. A little bit of a click there. So it's good to pay attention to, and also maybe just sweep back down before you do your bypass. So this is just something to learn about and just like experiment with, and it's just inherent with analog switches and filters and stuff like that. So it's not the switch that's making that sound, it's actually just the filter engaging and cutting those frequencies out so quickly. All right, so here's the resonance. And this filter was specifically designed to not self-oscillate, so it will get pretty resonant, but it won't get so resonant to the point where it honks out and just like destroys your eardrums. No one likes a honky filter on the master mix, so we took that capability out. But it sounds pretty cool. All right, and now for the tilt. So the tilt has a switch under it, which allows you to decide which filter gets the tilt. If it's in the middle, both sides get the tilt effect. And if it's on the left, only the low pass side of the filter gets it. If it's on the high pass, only the high pass filter gets it. So we're in the middle. So now I can turn this knob, and we can hear it just kind of get crazy with the stereo effect. If you're not listening in headphones or on a stereo system, I highly recommend it because it's pretty tight. All right, so another thing to do is throw an LFO into the tilt. Turn this guy on, and we get this kind of crazy dizzying effect. I did this in my performance for the Metron at Perfect Circuit, and I did this a few times, and everybody who heard it was like, in the live stream, was like, whoa, what is that? And this is it. This is the secret right here. So that's a pretty cool thing, and it sounds really cool in the club if you've got a good stereo system. All right, so these switches down here are your attenuators for your CV. You can actually use these filters independent of each other, so you can just use the high pass or just use the low pass. So right now I'll run my LFO into the high pass, and then we'll turn the CV up here. Right? And then you can attenuate that signal so you can negatively affect the signal. We can run that into the low pass side as well. Right? And then one of my favorite things about this filter is the fact that it's got this switch right here. So now we're sending 5 volts into these knobs, a 5-volt offset. So these knobs become independent controls of the filter themselves. So we can high pass, and zero's in the middle. So we can high pass by turning this guy up, or we can low pass by turning this guy down. So one of my favorite effects is to put the high pass here and then low pass up here. And we get this kind of radio sound. And then we can do our tilt effect. Right? And then you can kind of sweep the two different things. All right, so that is the Muscle and the Overseer, our kind of stereo pair for the performance mixer. I actually, in my personal rig, have 2 Muscles and 2 Overseers. I use one of my Muscles for the master, and I use one of my Overseers for the master. And then I actually use another Overseer to filter my sampler. So I have the Rossum assimilator, and I use the master outputs of that running through an Overseer. So then I've got some cool stuff. I'll run some breaks through it or vocals or whatever. And I've got a really nice stereo filter with the crazy tilt effect. And then my second Muscle I use for sidechain effects, so I'll run my bass line through it and sidechain it to the kick or something like that. So these are very useful for other use cases than just using as the master, but I mean, this is what they are designed for and made for, and it's just a super fun way to set up your live rig, and you've always got something to mess with the Overseer, and then you don't really have to be afraid of messing around with your mix a little bit with the Muscle, because it just kind of helps glue everything together and just give it a little bit of guts. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any suggestions or any things you'd like to see, please put them in the comments below. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.